Truth Frequency Radio.
Broadcasting straight to you from a spaceship currently tracking the USS Eldridge over the... Wait, where did it go? It was right there a second ago. Now it's gone. Better keep an eye on that area. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure, thousands of miles wide. Check it out at enclosedworld.com or just Google Flat Earth Clues. You'll find it. Trust me, I know. My good friend, personal wingman for the show, is Jonathan from Jersey. What's going on, man? Jonathan?
I'm doing my best mime impression. I don't want some listeners out there.
Nice.
Language and keep silent. I'm going to do some mum and shans.
Nice. That's good. So, where we left off, where our heroes left off, was Saturday, which we are not on as of right now. We are currently on Tuesday night. Because for those who are listening to this on YouTube, you're probably wondering how the show get out so fast. You just got one out on Saturday and now you're on Tuesday. It's because now we have moved to Tuesday night. So those who want to listen to us live on Truth Frequency Radio, real people, real radio, Truth Frequency Radio, please tune in on Tuesday nights. And it's a late one for you night owls. People that are driving late, people that are staying up and don't have anything better to do. Tune in and we will entertain you. I promise. So,
polite, you know that?
The what?
You're so polite.
Actually, we got ripped out of our Saturday time slot.
There you go.
And now we're stuck in this crappy who cares Tuesday. No, that's not true.
I was going to say, now we're on Tuesday night, so anybody with a job, any of the, our regular listeners are probably sleeping. They're going to have to listen on the next day. But all those losers out there, all the haters that like to make negative comments on the board, they'll have nothing to do on a Saturday night now.
Good point. Good
Probably
point.
Friends, right?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of that, as you know, because I really wanted to recap it, with the last show we did, which was only a couple days ago, was Robert from the U.S. Navy, missile instructor. And that video did really well, where he came out and basically said, look, I've tested and anyone that missed it, please go back and check out episode 21, where we had a U.S. Navy instructor that came out and said, there's no curvature where I'm coming from. And he's saying it from the curvature standpoint, from the Coriolis effect, which means he couldn't identify anything that said the Earth was spinning. And he said the navigation in the southern hemisphere was all wrong. So what more do you want? In my opinion, but it was a fun interview. I really enjoyed it. What about you?
I like that guy. Is he back?
Is he back? No, he's not back right now. That Navy sound from the either the bridge of a standard ship or the Starship Enterprise, because a starship is still a ship. So yeah, we still get the Navy thing going there. But yeah, it was fun, and we will definitely have him back. So anybody who has questions for him, I didn't see that many in the forums because he covered a lot of technical stuff. But anybody that has questions, please email us, email me, msargent23 at comcast.net. Let me know what questions you might have for Robert. Anything else? Because there was one that came up, and he was kind of talking about the satellites and the GPS system. But I think he kind of addressed it. I don't think if they access any other satellites, and if they did, if the military did access other satellites, I don't know if he could tell us anyway. But it didn't. It didn't sound from what he was saying that they access satellites at all.
No. And we spoke afterwards. We spoke for a good hour.
Yeah.
And he thanked us again. He said, the reason I came on your show is because of your format, the way you guys are, you're more laid back and you're open and.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point, by the way, because, sometimes we get, hit a little bit, although I would have thought that somebody would have come after me for introing the show with Johnny Quest. And nobody did. They're all, wow, Johnny Quest. But it's true. We go at it kind of at a laid back pace, and it really, here's the thing. Even though that show, the last show we did was a little more serious, I don't think we're going to treat it any differently, regardless of who comes on. Really, why would we? That's the format. That's why he came on in the first place. He said, "Look, we sound like fairly normal guys, and we weren't doing the doom and gloom thing where I'm sitting down. It's like, okay, Robert, tell us right now, and it's like real serious. What does this mean to the flat Earth community? Because the flat Earth is still a really exciting concept and a really exciting idea. So why should we doom and gloom it? I'm not going to do it. I'm saying, look, this could change the world in a great way. It's it's a little bit upsetting that the Navy trains its people, to think that the world is flat, but they're just one group, and which we'll get into a little bit later. Where you think he's the only one we got? No, my friends, we have more. They're
what's coming next? I can't wait. And
oh yeah, well, I mean the one after this one tonight, or this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one. Yeah, I mean we got more. In fact, we'll probably hint to it afterwards. The next guy on our docket. Is should I intro him now, or do we want to talk about the Navy guy anymore right now? What do you think?
Don't let the cat out of the bag for the next one.
Okay. Well, I won't for the next one. Okay. Well, let's talk about the surveyor, because that'll be in the title of this show. Before Robert from the U.S. Navy contacted us, a couple weeks prior, actually, I got an interesting call from a surveyor, and by that I mean a land surveyor, commercial land surveyor specifically. He doesn't shoot the line of sight on homes or anything. He does commercials, commercial property, big things like car factories, airport runways, stadiums, that sort of stuff. Big tracts of land. And for those of you who don't know what a surveyor is, you should be looking this up. You should know this, though. These are the people that come out before the foundation is laid, before anything is laid, and they look, they look at elevation, how the ground is laid out, and they spot it for you. And they say, okay, this is how the ground is laid out to the inch, and less than an inch. It's spot on. And their whole job is just checking the ground. They're setting up before the first piece of concrete goes down, they lay it out and make sure the land is laid out exactly before the bulldozers show up. That's what these guys do. And this guy had listened to our show some weeks ago and said, and the whole flat Earth concept was kind of getting under his skin. And he's done this his whole career. He had done it from 1979 all the way through 2011, which was 32 years. And he was backtracking. He called me about 3-4 weeks ago, and he said, look, I think you guys may be onto something. He goes, look, I'm a career surveyor. All we do is check the level, levelness of the ground. And he goes, in 32 years, he goes, I don't remember ever dealing with any curve whatsoever, no matter what we did. And I go, okay. And he goes, well, tell you what, I'll call you back. Let me look through my records. He's going to go through his records all the way back to 1979, because it takes a little while to remember that far back. And then once we did the Navy show with Robert from the Navy, it jogged his whole thing, and he completely got out of his chair, left a message for us during the show when we were talking to Robert, and then I called him back, and we did a little pre-record with him today, which we'll play for you in a little bit. And I even did a pre-show with him where he was going, yeah, absolutely. He's basically going to say when he comes out here that he did his entire career in the Midwest, started in Indiana, and he did big tracts, big tracts of land. And he's basically saying, look, the whole industry of being a commercial surveyor, everything is based on a plane. It's based on a flat model. They say when you shoot your lines and you lay out the land for the construction teams, you're basically working on a flat plane. And I thought that was intriguing. So that's where
It's so funny because it's like it's so simple. You think somebody else would have like tripped upon this years and years and years ago.
yeah. Yeah, you would have thought so. But in fact, again, it was one of those things, yeah, like us, like everybody that's gone down the flat earth road. It's like, wait, why didn't I think of this? And this guy was saying that here's the problem. And he actually asked this when he was younger. And apparently this has just been passed down from generation to generation of surveyors, where they say when somebody asks, well, what about we deal with the curvature? And they go, and the saying is, oh, just don't worry about it because you're working on a flat plane. Right? The project you're working on is a flat plane. Well, the problem is everybody is working on a flat plane. So, and you'll understand when we get into this, this little interview I do with this guy runs, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes. But you'll understand, and if anyone has any questions, please ask me later. But what they're saying is every surveyor that goes out builds his model like the ground is perfectly flat. Like you're working on a flat chessboard. But the problem is that you're working on your chessboard and you have to interlock with somebody else that's working on another project next to you, and he's working on a flat chessboard. The problem is eventually those chessboards have to butt up against each other, and the curvature has to come into play at some point, and it never does. Everything interlocks perfectly like Legos, and in a city. So he's going, it doesn't seem like much when you're just working from one piece of property to another, but think about an entire length of city. A city from beginning to end. You can't tell me there's no curve there's not going to be a conflict from one end of the city to the other end of the city. There's going to be feet of curve that nobody takes into account. They don't even talk about it. So I know, kind of getting ahead of myself. So
isn't that how like 13th and a half floors get built and things like that? Just odd.
Well, no, that was his point. He's going, look, there should be mistakes. If it's curved, what he was saying is, if it's curved, there should be mistakes everywhere.
Exactly.
Because eventually people are going to have, even accidentally, there should be mistakes because people are going to run into issues. Basically, so let's say here's the mistake I'm talking about. So I have my chessboard, right, that I'm building. It's perfectly flat because that's what the model I'm building is. And the guy next to me is building a flat chessboard. The problem is if we actually had to take into account the curvature of the Earth, somebody eventually is going to forget the formula. They're not going to plug in the curvature formula. So he's going to butt up against my chessboard, and it's not going to work at all. I'm going to say, oh, did you check your curvature? Did you? And we're going to go back and forth. That argument never, ever happens.
You're going to appreciate this then. You ready?
Yeah.
Before you even told me you were going to speak to the surveyor,
yeah.
I wound up a couple days ago putting a picture of the circular chessboard from the Millennium Falcon on your video.
Are you serious?
I told everybody, here's a hint. I didn't even know you were going to interview this surveyor.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, do you want me to? I wish I had reverb on my side because I'd say you're doing it again. And it's late. So
please say that. They think I'm just full of crap,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just thought of the chessboard just now, and I could have said my giant square plastic mouse pad or anything else, but a chessboard makes much more sense. But I'll give you the other analogy because I didn't say this on air with him, which was it's like people are still not getting it. It's like, okay, a surveyor builds his thing on a sphere. It's like trying to cover a basketball with wheat thins. Those little brittle square things. Yeah, you can cover it. Let's say you just glue and you glued the wheat thins all around the basketball. Yeah, you can cover it, but the squares don't line up perfectly because they can't because they're squares and you're working on a sphere. What he's saying is that everything works. You wonder why all our cities turn out great and everything's built just fine? That's because we're just interlocking squares to each other, big flat squares. He goes, there is no curvature. Not that he's ever seen. Now, he's not gonna necessarily wear a flat Earth T-shirt and start walking down the street or anything. But he's saying, look, 32 years surveying. That's all he does is measure flat land. Never saw it, never accidentally saw it, never talked about it, never had a discussion, either inside of work or outside of work with, you'd think, over a couple beers, somebody would mention something. And so why don't we, should we cue it up at this point?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah, let's give it a shot.
All right.
And I'll mute my microphone.
There's different types of surveying. Construction surveying, where you take a plan and project all the points outwards, and then
Okay.
information gathering, where you have an existing topography or land and you gather information.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much started with some known points and projected information out for projects. And anything from, the runways at Federal Express to auto plants that are Toyota that's, a mile-long project that should have had some sort of overlaps in the
And so you, again, just to break it down, you were the guy that came out and surveyors came out and they basically leveled they set all the land points before the foundations are laid, before anything. So they're there before the
one
bold.
that would come out and I'd always say, give me 2 coordinates and 1 elevation. That's all I need.
Got it. And for the blueprint guys, they would, you had to basically set, you put the points on the land, and then everybody shows up and starts building the building.
Well, exactly. I'd put the stakes in or paint lines and start digging, and every single measurement that went into the building, I was the layout guy.
Got it. And how accurate do you, when you were doing it, we've got time, so we can go into the nitty-gritty of stuff, but when you were laying it out, how accurate did you have to be, since your whole job was based on fractions of inches, how accurate did you have to be on a fairly big project?
Well, in theory, we want to be exact.
Okay.
So when you're projecting things out, you try to get as close as you possibly can. But then in the building process, we know you can't be exact, so there's tolerance,
Okay. Got it. But the tolerances still are fairly tight.
Well,
it's not
exactly. And with concrete matching up and capping a wall, it could be an inch off or something. But your marks, my layout marks should have been absolutely correct everywhere.
Got it.
And the variance comes in the actual building. So they wanted me to be exact every time.
Okay. So you were a surveyor in the United States from 1979 until you retired in
11. Well, 30 years. Yeah.
So 2009, roughly.
Well, 11.
Oh, 2011. So 32 years. Got it. So surveying, United States, and you specialized in large construction surveying, not houses or anything like that. Manufacturing plants,
sports stadiums, Eli Lilly projects, big turbines, big buildings, Toyota, mile-long car plant, Federal Express, the tarmacs at the airport.
Wow.
And I even got a bonus for holding my grades perfect.
Nice. Even better.
Upgrade versus to finish grade, to meet specs for minimums and not go over on concrete volumes. Everything. Perfect flat. Perfect.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And when what do you think the longest project was? Not necessarily the widest and the longest. What do you think the longest stretch you shot?
Well, the Toyota plant, I think, from one end of the project to the other, that's the biggest one I was on.
Do you think that ran over a mile?
Yes, and the airport also, but I had my little area,
Okay, got it. So that all being said, obviously, like most people, you haven't been looking even into the flat Earth thing that long. What was the first thing that kind of caught your eye? Were you just on YouTube and happened to run into it?
Well, yeah. I think it was through the moon stuff that tied in.
Okay. And then when you saw it, what started making you think about what you were doing as a career surveyor? What kind of made you start scratching your head?
Well, parallax and the water thing, and I've always and no mistakes in my back. I mean, I never had any major mistakes because it would have been a daily joke. Oh, curvature of the Earth. Oh, made a mistake. Curvature of the Earth. Oh, we don't match each other. We don't match each other because you came off of that point and I came off of this point, and there's curvature in between. It would have happened every day.
Got it. So let's kind of delve into that a little bit because you and I were talking about this off air, which was when it comes to point. So like you're working on a project and somebody else is working on another part of the project. But everything that you've told me so far, and we'll get into it, is that surveyors work on a flat plane model.
It's called a plane survey.
A plane survey. That is your technical term for it. And so if you're working on your plane survey and another guy is working on his plane survey, well, there's a problem there if you guys end up meeting each other because technically there should be a curve if you believe that everything's curved, there should be a curve in between you two. Therefore, where your edges match up, there should be a conflict, right?
Well, exactly. And the USGS markers don't give you any limitations on how far you can project that plane.
Got it. Let's talk briefly about it, about the USGS markers. So in the world of surveying, when you were going through it, starting out in '79, because you mentioned, when somebody asks about how to handle the curvature, people keep referring back to the USGS markers. Is that true?
Well, yes. They say don't worry about it. Our project's not big enough to worry about, and that's for geodetic surveying, and we're just dealing in plane surveys here. And most building projects, even railroads and highways, are plane surveys.
So as far, in fact, okay. So I want to, because remember, I'm going to break it down for everybody. So there's plane surveys, which is what you do, and then there's geodetic surveys, which supposedly account for the curvature of the Earth. And if people don't understand what I'm talking about, it's like those little sections on a soccer ball.
As the plutonic solids, like the tetrahedron would be the most basic, smallest thing, but every plane would be sea level, zero.
Yeah.
And where you encounter problems is where you extend past the boundaries of your shape. If I only went halfway to the edge of the triangle starting off in the middle, I'm going to say that's zero. But to you have to extend past your plane. You're going to say it's low.
Yeah. Yeah,
all the USGS markers are randomly placed wherever they could find a hard spot, but they don't have any boundary limitations for the geodetic shape it's supposed to be making.
So does there anybody know what the geodetic shape is?
Well,
since the USGS.
I'm just getting into this, and I never inquired because it was out of my field. I didn't need to worry about it. And it's strange that it supposedly exists, but it's never a problem.
So do you know anybody off the top of your head, I got to ask, do you know anybody off the top of your head that actually, because remember, you're working on a planar model. Did you ever talk to anybody in your career that was actually using the geodetic model on their project?
No, and I've looked at plans, and you would think on the plans for major projects, it would say this came off of this. I mean, and it does note it came off of this marker. It's where we got our elevation, but they don't tell you how far you can go with that. projecting it out. And someone that would come from another direction would have a different for existing stuff and future stuff. If they came off a marker that was closer to their project, is what they would do to try to reduce the error, it wouldn't match.
So this is great stuff. So I'm just going to keep clarifying because there's some wonderful little details in here. So the USGS, in order to account for the geodetic model, which nobody uses, placed these markers, which are and the markers are what? Just little flat pieces of concrete that they put in random spots all over the United States?
It's usually a brass disc that has an X on it with the plane coordinates and an elevation.
And these are located. Can people find these geodetic markers at just about anywhere?
Well, they're typically like on bridges, on highways and stuff.
Got it. So it's just and are they indicated by anything? Is it something like if I was driving down the road, if I wanted to find my nearest one, would I just look up online and say geodetic markers? Is this something that the general public can access, or is it just for certain
websites? But I don't know. I never had to use them. I'm just going with the theory of the geodetic survey versus the plane survey.
Got it. So in 32 years, you never even had to reference one of these markers?
No.
Even though you're working on giant projects?
Yeah. I mean,
like car plants and airports?
I've seen plenty of them. But I never checked into one or anything, everything. And see, we never had real discrepancies with elevation, which you would think would be a big problem.
We'll be right back, everybody. More Strange World. Stay tuned.
Freaky Friday with the Woo Crew. Fridays on Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent. And with me is Jonathan from Jersey. Say hi, man. Jonathan.
I don't know what to do with myself tonight.
Because we're running a pre-recorded thing?
Let me just say one thing, because I don't get the chance to talk. I go crazy. Ready?
Yeah, go.
All right, this for you, Mark.
You're the greatest guy in the whole galaxy.
Wow, that's from the Jetsons, isn't it? That's Elroy.
Okay, I annoyed some listeners out there. I've done my job. All right, whenever you're ready.
I'm scared that I actually knew that was Elroy from the Jetsons, without even thinking about it. Yeah. So just so where we left off was this show. We're talking with John. It's a pre-record, so don't call in yet. We're talking with John, a career surveyor, 32 years out of Indiana, who basically called and said, you know what? That flat Earth thing makes a whole bunch of sense because he did a whole bunch of surveys for 32 years and it was all on a flat plane. Curve was never taken into account. So let's pick up where we left off, shall we?
Here we go.
The theory of the geodetic survey versus the plane survey.
Got it. So in 32 years, you never even had to reference one of these markers?
No.
Even though you were working on giant projects?
Yeah. I mean,
like car plants and airports?
I've seen plenty of them. But I never checked into one or anything, everything. And see, we never had real discrepancies with elevation, which you would think would be a big problem.
Yes, you would. And again, for those people that aren't quite getting what he's putting down here, He's basically saying that if he's starting his project on a plane, on a flat map, and another guy's starting on a different project on his flat map, where those two flat maps meet, and in construction, I would imagine they meet all the time.
Well, they have to, yeah. I mean, your whole city would have intersection points.
There you go. Yeah. Perfect example. From one city to the next, you've got a whole bunch of different surveyors working on different plane models, and these models have to link up. And where they link up, unfortunately, the distance between one end of a city to another, there should be a little bit of a curve there, and that means the models won't match up. It's like fitting two pieces of tile together, but you've got different tile workers working on it,
yeah.
And
they're different shapes.
And they're different shapes on top of it. They're not even like you're matching up a square to a square.
I'm wondering if you actually took their geodetic markers and placed them, what kind of shape you would end up with.
That's brilliant. Yeah, in fact, somebody should do that if they're listening right now.
Because they're referenced elevation on a geodetic model is based off a plane. or the radius, which is only good for that exact location.
Wow. Okay, so the markers, and for the people that haven't referenced the clues and they're just listening to this for the first time, what's interesting about this is the markers were actually put down by the USGS, which is the United States Geological Survey, which happens to be the creators of the azimuthal equidistant map, which happens to be a plane map. It's not a globe map. It's a plane map. The same group, basically the map makers, the premier map makers of the world, have a geodetic model out there that the surveyors don't use. Yeah,
it's there, but don't worry about it.
Okay, let's get into that a little bit, because
we tried to. What came first? The mistakes in elevation, or the globe model, and we tried to fit all our math to fit the globe. It appears like it's straight, but you're actually looking crooked because of refraction and gravity. I mean, you're going to tell me that all my projects, even though they look straight, they were actually crooked. Well, how does that work?
Yeah, and the odds, and if you're doing this for 32 years, basically your whole career is shooting these lines.
That's all I did every day, was to set up these instruments, go through my... I would be sometimes hungover, whatever, but it was just routine. It was routine to go through this process to get your instrument height and your elevation and projecting them out, making some drawings and say I need to end up here and putting it out there. And I never once, after it became routine, you don't even take into consideration curvature, and everything always works.
Everything worked. Everything that you butted up against, all the other projects, because especially if you're talking about the Toyota plants and an airport runway and a stadium, you're going to run into all sorts of different plans and models all around you. And nothing conflicted with anybody. Everybody, the plant got built, the runway got built, everything got built. Nope. And you're saying that after all that time, nobody had a problem with anything. Everything just lined up perfectly next to each other because they were...
For the most part. Sure, there's mistakes, but you could track it down to something, and it was never attributed.
But it wasn't based on the mistake was never based on the curve of the Earth.
You took your plane too far to match up to my plane over here.
Yeah.
It never, ever... it would have been ludicrous to suggest that.
Wow. And there was something else that you mentioned to me yesterday, which was when you asked about it, when you were, at one point in your career, even the book, you said the book said pretty much the boiled down version was the book said, the instructional book on surveying said don't worry about it. Can you kind of expand on that?
Well, because of the type of survey we deal with and the way it's done, you assume everything around you is on the same plane that you're on. But in reality, every point wherever you're at has its own. I mean, a point has no dimensions.
Yeah.
It's not a plane.
Yeah.
In order to work around a circle, there's an infinite number of points.
Yeah.
So depending on how close together they are, or how far apart they are, you can't take a tangent line from one of those points and end up at another point.
Got it. So
you're as soon as you start working your plane survey, in theory, everything you do projecting out from your starting point's wrong.
Well, so just to be clear, the surveying books basically say, you know what, you're just going to be working off a flat model. Don't worry about anything outside of your flat model because you don't know what's outside there. But everybody else that's doing their same thing, they're reading the same thing. So, okay, my flat model is hooking up to your flat model, which is hooking up to your flat model, which means it'll all work out just fine.
It does.
So the curvature is more or less just ignored because no one's ever seen it. So the textbooks say, don't worry about it. It's nothing to sweat, right?
Well, right, and it's just like almost like Al Qaeda,
Oh, do tell me how Al Qaeda. Oh, because
you can't find them, but they're there.
Nice. That's an interesting comparison. I like that.
It's like gravity, too. I mean, it's there. You can't see it, but we have no other explanation, so we're going to go with this one, even though it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So the curvature's there. The surveyors, it's not like you guys are privy to any weird secrets. The surveyors are told, we know there's a curvature of the Earth. We're just not going to work with it, though, professionally.
I know. Well, I asked a couple guys, and they've got these total stations now that do all the work for you that you don't have to consider much. It's not the instrument. And it has a function built into it for curvature.
Okay.
But you'd have to be doing a geodetic survey. And I'm just curious. I want to find two markers that are close enough together that I can do a plane survey between them and just see.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everything that you saw over 32 years says that it isn't there. You couldn't prove it.
Exactly. All the evidence says that it's not there. Wow. But I never did the super long distances,
Well, but it doesn't. I mean, even at a mile would be 8 inches, and if the curvature is real, and in fact, I had several people that mentioned to me just kind of in passing over the last few months. They would send me things. It's like, look, if you're making a building that's say half a mile long or a quarter mile long,
think of the plant in Dearborn that's 25 miles long.
Wow, that's huge. I didn't know that plant was that long.
Yeah.
25 miles long, that's a lot of elevation drop. That's a lot of curvature.
Yeah.
And that's a huge amount, and you would have to take that.
All built on plane surveys.
It's all built on plane surveys. Wow. And was there and the same thing somebody wrote me recently about, because I get an email probably once a month about railroad tracks. Because railroad tracks are technically built on just interlocking planar models. You're just going, because railroad tracks can connect together. They're literal. They're the same size. And people are saying, well, people have been asking recently, don't you account for curvature of the Earth drop? Because if the railroad tracks were exactly straight, they would just start getting higher and higher and higher. And they'd never follow the curve. And no different. That's an easier example, but that's really no different than a giant car plant. The only difference is you're dealing with a lot more material.
Yeah, it's there, but don't worry about it. And everything comes out right.
So, and surveying's been around for a long time. Surveying is an old profession. I mean, it's been around
because a lot of this is attributed to refraction.
Yeah.
say that's why it looks like it's straight, but it's actually curved, and you're seeing on the curve. It's because of some type of refraction. And I'm going, did we discover refraction, or did we have to find something to lend to the globe model after? Because surveying was around before.
Oh yeah, surveying's been around for a long, long time. Right. I mean, hundreds of years.
Well, right. I mean, they built the pyramid somehow.
Yeah, there you go. That's a perfect example.
We were told, since nobody knows, well, they probably built some forms, filled it up with water, marked the water level, and there was their get-go for their foundation.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
That water seeks its own level.
Yeah, water does seek its own level, which is why, again, the obvious the bubble levels on every level.
Actually, that's surveying, and I made this little logo in college that was a plumb bob hanging over water.
Okay.
Those two physical constants that never change. It's like the law.
Yeah.
It's like physics, one of the physical laws. Water seeks its own level, and you dangle something from the string, it follows a plumb path perpendicular to water level. Now,
interesting.
I'm curious. You did a lot of research with airplanes.
Yeah.
As you would extend your altitude, like 15 miles high, 30,000 feet, whatever, your distance would be much greater than the ground distance.
Ah. Interesting.
If you were on a flat plane, it would be exact. So on the long-distance flights, how do they determine mileage? And the real telltale would be, how do they cost in dollars?
Yeah, good point, which is why the AE map, and I keep hearing more and more examples of it. I heard it from that Navy guy just the other day, and that is when you get to the southern hemisphere on a plane map, the distances become exaggerated. And you have to count for that. I don't know if you heard his example when he was talking about it, that even when they were down almost towards the southern part of South America, they would still turn the fleet back and pump and take them through the Panama Canal for no apparent reason, even though it should.
I heard him say that.
Yeah, and that would make sense if it was a plane, because on a plane, when you got out that far, the oceans would be stretched way further. The oceans would be bigger than what we see on a normal Mercator map.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, and so again, why would you turn the fleet around when you were, pushing, getting towards Chile, off the coast of Chile? It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna take the Panama Canal. So what are you talking about? We're right here. All we have to do is turn the corner, and it's like, no, somebody at the higher levels knows this stuff. But in the surveying world, that's not necessarily the case. It's just that things are just passed down, and nobody takes notice of it, because you're working on your project, and you've got your friends are working on their projects. And when they connect, they work. Nobody questions it because it works. It's like, oh yeah, well, everything looks good. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Nobody ever questions the curvature of the Earth. It's never, in fact, in the 32 years that you were doing surveying, you guys never, when you're sitting over coffee, never came up.
No, not never. I mean,
and the books say, you know what? It's just a side note in the books where they say,
plain survey, it doesn't exist.
Literally, it doesn't exist. But nobody questions. It's like, well, your survey is absolutely flat. So that's all you have to worry about. That's your math. That's your wheelhouse. That's all you have to deal with.
Our variations is not curvature. It's topographic variations for the ground.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm scratching my head on the geodesic map that the survey uses. If you were to place all these markers on the globe and place them the right distance out from the center on the right radius, how do they do that? Because the mountain ranges and stuff that vary so much, they're going, well, this is going uphill, but it's also going downhill at the same time around the curve. And
Yeah.
the plane survey says it's going uphill, but the geodetic survey is wrapping it around some radius point.
Wow. So let me throw another one at you. You mentioned, did you say recently you came up with the idea when you were thinking about this that once the GPS system, the global positioning system, designed by the United States Department of Defense, because they'd never do anything underhanded, their satellite system could coordinate with the USGS, since these guys are brothers, organizations. And they could correct any issues with the geodetic model markers.
Well,
didn't you?
Right, and I asked them that, and they said they're correcting them all the time. Like there wasn't anything special about the advent of GPS that everything was wrong, or 90% needs corrected, or it's like, oh, everything's all right. And in theory, every time they add one, there's corrections to be made, because where the intersection between the geodetic survey and the plane survey, everything's wrong. So every time you add a point.
Still there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So just again, to be clear on this, you have strong doubts that the geodetic model was perfectly accurate to begin with. If anything could make it more accurate, it'd be a satellite system. And especially since it's a one government organization tying to the other one, it's like, okay, let's put some beacons down and firm up all the markers that we've got all over the place. But they probably don't care, because no one's using that model. So they're saying, oh, yeah, we got the GPS system. We're going to hook that into the USGS and look at the markers. And, we'll fix all those. But since no one's using the markers, it's probably just an inter-office memo in case that question ever comes up, like you asked them. And they say, oh, yeah, we're updating them all the time. It's like, really? Really? Because people would you'd see people out there at those markers with some sort of satellite uplink.
Well, and even the electric, we got... started off with the EDM, the electric distance measurement, and then it got built into the total station, and now they don't even use tape measures anymore. They don't even use tape measures anymore. You just shoot the light beam. It's more accurate and quick. So how many corrected, though? I mean, they had to do a correction process with the new instruments coming out.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. But so you were kind of fortunate in what you were doing, because you started in the 70s before they had the light beam measurers,
right? And
so when
our instruments have gotten more sophisticated, where we can go longer distances, and that's where I start scratching my head. Is they make a laser to put stuff in; it'll go out 600 feet.
Yeah,
and I used to go, use it to its maximum. Mm-hmm. And it came out, there was no problems with the intersecting planes,
So laser to you would think that if one laser point to another laser point, it being that accurate, you would think that one planar model would butt up against another planar model. It just wouldn't fit. It's the short version of this, folks, if you haven't figured out what we're talking about here, is that it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle when you're talking about surveyors, when you're building towns or factories or whatever, and the puzzle pieces are odd sizes, they're supposedly odd elevations, and they have to take into account the curvature of the Earth. But they all end up working fine. We all live in cities that are built, the streets are run just fine, the plants work, the stadiums work, the airports work, but it should not be that easy. If there's curvature of the Earth, there should always be a conflict. And even by accident, there should be a conflict. If somebody, I'll give you a perfect example, and correct me if I'm wrong here, where let's say a surveyor, let's say the world is a globe, somebody forgets to take into account the curvature, and he shoots his plane, and the other guy takes his curvature in, he shoots his in, accidentally, they should have a problem right there.
Exactly.
But in 32 years of you shooting planes and butting up against every sort of plane you can imagine, from 1979 up until 2011, you never had a problem with anyone that had, you never got to a point where you guys are sitting around going, well, this doesn't match up because you forgot to take into account the Earth is round.
Never once did that come up.
or in conversations about anything.
Or even another project within the company, or other companies, other people in the field in the same city. I never heard of it.
I was about to say, if you worked with, and what part of the country did you mostly work in, or were you all over?
Well, Indianapolis area.
Indianapolis, okay, Midwest.
Much flat,
Yeah, but you were. I mean, there was a lot of different projects out there. You probably talked to a bunch of guys, and worked with whole tons of different construction people, and the conversation just never ever came up.
Nope. Not once.
Well, you heard it. You heard it here. Career surveyor, 32 years. He works
construction surveys, so don't confuse that, because I know that when you do survey work for boundaries and work off of these points, they do take it into consideration. But to what degree, I don't know. But the theory, I think you can. I mean, Mark, think about it.
Uh-huh.
If you start off and say it's a plane and take your elevations, you end up it's a plane.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start off and say it's a ball and take all your elevations and force them into the globe model, I don't know how you can take these points and locate them besides off the plane model, because that's how they're taken.
Yeah.
I mean, and because the ground varies, and there's, I don't know, so we came up with 8 inches in a mile with a slope.
Yeah.
But you can go back to parallax, and the 6 mile stretch of water that doesn't have any slope to it.
Yeah, and that 8 inches a mile.
Liars can figure, but figures don't lie. I mean, they're trying to force the globe into this system of coordinates, but you go back to the most basic, and that's why I have water on my logo. It's the most basic, fundamental principle of building, that it's going to seek its own level. And you can trust the water more than a level that works off a little bitty spirit that's placed inside the long thing that you got to have both of them matched up. The water itself is the very best telltale.
Oh, yeah. That is one thing that has not changed in a long, long, long time, which is, the bubble levels, the or all the different sophisticated water levels that you guys use. Which
gyro, the water was the only way we had to determine level.
Yeah, and interesting point that you would bring up the gyro, because the gyro is what the military uses.
All the mathematicians never came up with a correction for curvature with the distance on how far you could level with water.
Yeah, excellent point. Wow, really, really, really good stuff. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. Was there anything else, any other little details you wanted to add, as far as anything that kind of got you scratching your head that hopefully isn't keeping you up at night? And again, I thank you for reaching out to me and saying, because people who don't know, John called me and says, "Hey, look, there's something for certain."
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. Segment 3. We are in segment. Sorry, go ahead.
That was good, man. That audio. I didn't get to that. No, because you sent it to me earlier and you said, let's play it tonight?
Yeah.
Crap.
You liked it?
I can listen to it after the show. Yeah, I got to go back and listen, man.
Yeah, it's real interesting, and we'll talk about it in we'll run it down in a second. But I'd like to thank you for helping me change up my music, because a lot of people are saying, yeah, the video game music's okay, but you really should pick some cool track.
That was a good one.
The one that we just came in with.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
You're lying to me. You know exactly what that track is. You've heard it a bunch of times. It was played most notably on Goodfellas.
Oh,
when
God.
Ray Liotta was running away from the helicopter.
You're right.
I believe the artist was Harry Nilsson, award-winning singer. I don't even know if he's still alive. But he was one of those interesting artists that didn't go on tour. He was one of the most famous artists that never went on tour. And but thank you. Yeah, it was a song from my little collection. I actually listen to that on my iPod when I'm climbing hills or doing treadmills or whatever. It's a cool song. I love that song a whole bunch. And thanks to you, man, for laying it out there for me, and Chris at the studio for getting in there for tonight, because I really like. I mean, I love inspirational music, and that is one of the tracks I love. Go ahead.
No, I said thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Also, thank you for. I know that you weren't in. You were busy trying to get your YouTube channel up, and so you couldn't get in on that interview. But John, the surveyor from Indiana, I think he's out in Colorado now. He was really interesting to talk to. Good old boy. Love his laugh. And he was real basic, real down and dirty, which is, look, we worked on a plane. That's what our projects worked on. This globe thing, this curvature, this sphere, I've never seen it. It's brilliant. Excuse me. So.
And you know what? When old timers tell you, this is the way it is, you listen.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are the guys that built the roads, the bridges, like everything that we think of it, the infrastructure.
Yeah. And, this guy built a stadium. I mean, you talk about your America, apple pie baseball. He built a stadium. He built a car factory, an airport runway. He did this that was his life. That's what he did for 32 years. Yeah. And Flat Earth shook him out of his reality. And he said, you know what? Yeah, I mean, he didn't have to call us. He could have ignored it. And he didn't. I love the fact that he came forward. I love the fact that Robert came forward, and the guy that eventually will come forward, hopefully, for the next show.
And not for nothing. On an aside, I mean, being that it's in the conspiracy category,
yeah.
Was it the truth for 9/11? What is it, the architects and engineers?
Yeah, the engineers that stepped forward.
That's it. I mean, the same kind of peer group, 50 and older, old timers, people that really know metallurgy and.
Yeah, and that you're right, and that's a great point, because the engineers that stepped forward about 9/11, because the whole concept around how 9/11, the official government concept, was insulting to the engineers. I mean, they looked at it's like, whoa, you're telling me the engineering was off? No, that building could have withstand artillery fire, and it went down like a sack of rice. Yeah, don't tell us the engineering was bad. I love that. By the way, we should probably take some calls, shouldn't we? Or try to. I know it's late. It's Tuesday. I don't know if anyone's still up, but we could try to take some calls. You want to take some?
Yeah, I got it queued up. I think all you have to do is when they call in.
All right. So the number, we'll talk about some other stuff, but you guys want to call in and ask us any question about anything. It doesn't have to be about Flat Earth, because we're going to be talking about some other stuff. Because as of now, Jonathan is actually on the 23rd of September, and I'm still on the 22nd, so I'm safe.
Why'd you tell me that?
Oh, you didn't remember that it's actually 1 o'clock in the morning over there?
No, but I forgot. Now I'm all creeped out.
You should be. I'd be creeped out. Anyway, the phone number to call in, guys, toll free, 1-866-378-7884. Or if you want to do it by letters, it's 1-866-37-TRUTH. That's Truth Frequency Radio, and we've got the phone line up because I'm staring at it. So if somebody's up late and they want to talk to us, feel free, because I know Jonathan would. I think he may even sing before it's over. I don't know what he'd sing, but yeah. And while we're waiting, there's a little before we dig into the September 23rd doom and gloom, because why not, right? By the time this show ends, it'll be September 23rd where I am. I got a short letter, because we get letters from fans, and this one was really, really interesting. It was short and to the point, and it specifically referenced the last show we did, which was episode 21 with Robert from the U.S. Navy. When Robert came out and said, "Yeah, there's not curve. It's not spinning. The maps are wrong. The whole thing's screwed up." Love what he did there. And so this is from, I won't say her last name, but it's from Denise. And Denise says, have been into Flat Earth since June of last year. This is the best video I have seen on the subject. I have flown many long-haul flights and have been out at sea a lot. I know the Earth is flat, but now I am done. No more to add. Basically her version of case closed. We'll pass it on to my sheeple friends who think I am mad. Wow. I was on to 9/11 2 days later and had to wait for years for people to catch up with me. Wow. Mark, I am blown away. I am speechless. Thank you so much for your work. Blessings, Denise. So thank you, Denise. It was great. I'm not taking much credit for it. It was Robert that came out and wanted to talk, and Jonathan and I asked the right questions, apparently, and plus he approached us. And it worked really well, and it's getting a bunch of hits. And although I will say, did you catch that thing that I told you about that one of the devices it was being restricted on for a while?
No, which one?
Oh, yeah, it was Android. I had people, and it was mostly people out of country, which doesn't surprise me because of the title of the video. The title of the video was, flat or U.S. Navy missile instructor confirms flat Earth. I think it would have taken longer to release had I said something like whistleblower or something like that. But I just said confirms, and you know how the vetting process goes. They're going to look at anything. Because if somebody comes out, like some Navy comes out, look, here's the secrets to the new spy plane. They're going to check everything that mentions U.S. government. So, but the point is that Android phones were not running that video, which I thought was really strange. And it took me a while, but I have multiple people in different parts of the world, and most of them were international. I thought was interesting why Android phones internationally would not run episode 21, and I can assure people I uploaded it the same as I do every other one. But I said, okay, try it on your PC, and when they got to their PC, it was fine.
So you think it was just the keyword U.S. Navy?
Yeah, it's because it's what I would do if I was gonna vet something, if I was gonna monitor outgoing stuff that was outgoing content that was coming out of this country. Yeah, you look for anything military that says because who knows what you're going to catch. How these guys are. Somebody could release a real secret.
Sure.
Not that flat Earth isn't, but but people were saying, oh, weren't you worried about him coming out? It's like, what? How are they going to approach him? Because if they approach him and say, the Navy guy, if they approach him and say, oh, you shouldn't talk about flat Earth, he's going to look at them like they got a bug on their face. And he'd be like, what are you talking about? You mean I can't actually talk? You mean it's real? It's actually flat? No, they can't. You can't address that. It's a tough subject for the authority to deal with. So anyway, just my thought. How you doing tonight, by the way?
I'm all right. I mean, I don't know. After tomorrow, they might have to take me to Lark Hill for a checkup. But...
Oh, is that the mental institution near Jersey?
Lark Hill? Yeah, I think it was featured in V for Vendetta.
Oh. Lark Hill was the one where V, otherwise known as
FEMA camp too, right?
What?
It's like a makeshift FEMA camp where they do experiments on people on the red list.
Nice. Okay, well, let's get into it then. Let's get into it because I wasn't going to do it, but we might as well talk about it because I've like today's emails were starting to get frantic, and people were saying, what's happening? What's going to happen? Are you worried? Are you worried? Are you worried? It's like, maybe. I mean, I was there. Sure, I watched the Pope get off the plane live. As far as I knew, nothing happened to him. So, what's happening tomorrow? So tomorrow is the 23rd. And, for those listening on the East Coast, it's already the 23rd. What is happening tomorrow? The Pope visits the White House. He does not address Congress until Thursday. So he's going to be addressing Congress Thursday. I think he's just doing meet and greets tomorrow. Tonight he's probably resting, listening to the show, that sort of thing. And then the Chinese leader, the Chinese president, is actually in Seattle. He's actually right down the road from where I am. Talk about weird. The Chinese president's in Seattle, about 30 minutes away from me. So that's kind of interesting. He's going to be, and I think he's going to head off to Washington, D.C. in the next day or so. So I think he'll be there on Friday. And then the Pope makes some sort of speech in New York on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And then of course, there's a supposed meteorite that may hit tomorrow. I
think I posted something. They said tomorrow's the start of the fall equinox. Or no, maybe the 24th. And that the sun is going to be perfectly positioned above the Washington Monument, thereby casting a shadow perfectly to the Capitol.
Really?
Yeah, let me find it.
Was it designed that way?
I don't know what. I haven't confirmed any of this. I haven't researched it. I'm just.
It wouldn't surprise me. The Masons did build that one. There's two Washington monuments actually. Most people don't know about the second one. There's the Washington Monument, near the Capitol. But there's also the Washington Memorial that was built. Oh, I cannot remember the city, but look that one up. The Masonic Washington Memorial. That thing's huge.
Let me read this.
Go ahead.
Sorry. On September 24th, 2015, the fall equinox, Pope Francis will be the first pope to speak to. Oh, they misspoke. Speak before the Congress. The sun will align atop the Washington Monument that day, and its shadow will stretch to touch the U.S. Capitol dome, symbolically connecting heaven and earth.
Huh.
So that's a little weird.
Yeah, what day is that?
September 24th.
So, Friday.
No,
that's Thursday. Thursday.
Thursday. And I'll feel more at ease once he gets away from the East Coast, when he makes it out west.
Yeah, and I still haven't heard anything. The rumor was that Putin was going to be in town. When I say in town, inside the States. I heard he was going to be around as well, but I hadn't seen anything on him, and I would thought they would have covered it. So,
the Dalai Lama too.
Well, the Dalai Lama is coming to Colorado, but that's actually I don't think he's not in right now, okay. And I don't think that would have been much of a. Compared to the others. I mean, the big three, that would have been interesting. Having the Pope, Putin, and the Chinese president. That would have been interesting. So, and then, of course, all the other fun stuff. CERN is supposedly firing up on Thursday as well. Oh, wait. Same time that monument thing's happening. Creepy. Yeah, that would be something. But if you... Go ahead.
6 days.
The what?
Something about 266 days. It says 266th Pope visits the White House on the 266th day of the year, which is 266 days from conception to birth. Is that right?
Wow. Okay.
Well,
now I'm getting a little worried. And I mean, yeah, I like numerology as much as the next guy, but wow, that's some pretty interesting stuff. Huh.
Hey, what is it? What are the odds of that?
Probably not good.
Yeah.
So, people have been asking me, it's like, okay, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think is going to, how this thing going to tip off? It's going to happen. It's like, okay, look, first of all, officially, I'm not betting on anything because again, I've been burned every time, not too many times in the past. I've been burned every time in the past. So, if I had to take a guess, if it was me, if I was writing the plot, if I was writing the screenplay on this, and you can add to it or do whatever you want, but if it was me, I would stage. Note the word I said, stage some sort of ISIS attack while the Pope was around and the Chinese president was around. That's what I would do because it's easy to do because you could use some of the guys. In fact, here, let me run with this for a sec. You could take some of the guys from Jade Helm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And give them ISIS uniforms. Let them run amok somewhere, stage some sort of fake event where they get a lot of camera time. Maybe. Oh, here's one more for you. Oh, okay. Let me go down this road. Say this faked ISIS attack somehow assassinates the Chinese president. The Chinese blame the Americans on bad security. Things come to blows. We start a war with China. How's that?
Wow.
What do you think?
I don't want to endorse that. I don't want to.
No, I'm saying, if you want to pick a plot line that would be feasible, that's what I would do. Because people say, oh, no, he's going to get shot. Well, Pope's going to get, attacked while he's addressing Congress. I'm going, are you kidding me? Do you know the security on that building? It'd be insane. If you're going to do anything with the Pope, it'd be in New York, I would think.
Opinions expressed by Mark Sargent are not opinions shared by Jonathan the Wing.
I'm just saying, people ask. And it's like, look, I'm just saying, if you want a plot line that makes sense, that's you'd go down one of those two paths. But you have to. The point is, you've got to start with some sort of staged, and I say staged because it would not be a real terrorist attack. Because I don't believe, and I've said this on air, I don't believe that ISIS is a true terrorist organization. I think they're backed by an alphabet group, one of ours, probably. You disagree? Do you have any opinion on the 23rd? I know you don't want your opinion is you don't want to give it energy. Because the energy may manifest something.
No, because I've been looking at like conspiracy sites for the past couple of weeks, and there's a lot of fear surrounding it. Yeah. It's like if there were more like good outcomes, if people were looking forward to something beautiful to happen, then it'd be great. But all I'm seeing is negativity.
It's true.
And Melissa said, she goes, "What if they announce there's a flat Earth?" I said, "Well, then we're vindicated." I said, "My son will tell his mom, see, Dad was right." Be happy.
Okay. Let me go the other one. Let me go the flat Earth route because it does tie. I still think it ties into this. You and I have discussed this many times. Like, why is this topic even being allowed to? If you want to use the word manifest, that's one thing. Why is it being allowed to be openly discussed with little or no resistance? Why are there no panels? Why are no astrophysicists coming out to counter anything? Why is this? There's no magic bullet to knock this thing down.
Why is Sargent and the Maze Runner out in the movies right now?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, by the way. I forgot. I'm not going to dig up my email because if I do, Windows 10 will crash. The fan that wrote me to mention the Divergent, the third in the trilogy. Do you have that email in front of you?
No, I can look.
Where basically what they said was the trailer just gives it all away. They weren't even hiding it. Where the trailer said, in the second movie, the world world was destroyed, world was changed, the world was torn down, and then the third movie, they will go beyond the wall. How does that? What is that about? What was the other one?
Maze Runner.
Yeah, I didn't. You had to tell me. I didn't even know the second Maze Runner was out.
Yeah.
Which the Maze Runner second one, they go beyond the wall.
I mean, it's the same visual.
Yeah.
You can't just make a perfect flat Earth with a dome. That would be too obvious.
Yeah, I mean, if you could you put any more predictive program? I mean, this is the most blatant predictive program I've seen. I mean, you actually just say it in the trailer. Oh yeah, you're going to go beyond the wall. Oh yeah, this movie's going to go beyond the wall too. What? And when's the Divergent one coming out? Not till a few months. I don't think.
2016. Yeah, it'll be a summer flick.
Yeah. It's too easy. So yeah, but okay. So
what's worse though? Not so much the people that are keeping us in here.
What?
Right? Like, I mean, guards run a prison, but they don't really run the prison. They don't make the laws that imprison people, falsely or otherwise.
Yeah.
Just doing their job, right?
Yeah.
So the problem is, who's on the outside commanding these people to do their damn jobs?
Yeah, there is that. I don't necessarily want to get into the Nephilim discussion, but it is an interesting one. I also had a person send me and several people have made videos on it already. Biblical ramifications of Revelations 10, which I thought was very, very interesting because it's what I consider one of the most unique passages in all the Bible, and I've thought about this one since Sunday school, back in the day, which was that an angel came down, put his 1 foot on the land, 1 foot on the sea, and uttered this sentence, these words, right? And these words were repeated by the seven thunders over the world. And the guy that was writing this chapter of Revelation, he was told by whatever thing was looking over his shoulder, do not write down what he said. That secret that he just said right there, you don't say it. You do not utter the words. And I was going, wow, that's pretty interesting. Could it have been simple, like the angel came down, so yeah, by the way, the world is flat, because that would pretty much be a giveaway.
But you know what? When we talk about these things, and we just come up with these fantastic ideas of what ifs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We always think, well, what if it's a Nephilim, or what if it's this? But here's a what if that's not too happy.
Great, here you go. What do you got?
But it's a dual-edged sword. There's some that believe that we're going towards singularity and advancing technologically, right?
Yeah.
But like you saw in that movie, The Signal, or The Matrix.
Yeah.
What if there's already technological presence that's outside the dome, outside this thing? And instead of being confrontational like the Borg, right, and being really overt, where we can then defend ourselves, or like the Terminators, where if you can see it, you can attack it.
Yeah.
But what if they're doing it real subtle and they're introducing technology so that we willingly go towards it? Phones, nano, and all this other stuff.
Oh, sure.
Eventually embrace it, and then... So what if that's on the other side? What if it was organic and it went technological, and then they created organic again? Now we're going back to technology again. It gets kind of trippy. But
yeah, I don't think that's creepy necessarily. It's trippy, sure. And yeah, if you're talking about the last 5 minutes of The Signal, then it makes a whole lot of sense.
The question is like why would we meet that with such fear? Like why are we so fearful and aggressive, right? What if these are very benevolent beings that said, look, we created you, look at, and they start to explain DNA, and they start to explain the model of Earth and why it is the way it is and how incredible we are. And then all of a sudden, like we seem to think that when we have these, like if we become technology advanced, that we'll somehow lose something in ourselves.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. You're right. That because we seem to hold on to whatever the thing we can't define, which is the essence of our humanity,
right?
And we hold on to it like grim death. And if anyone tries to even diminish it or fade it or dilute it in any way, we consider it an atrocity. However,
the heart transplant, or they get a prosthetic or everything, they're still the same person. They don't lose any part of themselves. Their soul is still who they are.
Yeah, and you're right. And it'd be it's also hypocritical, because everybody knows full well that if we came up with what was that Bruce Willis movie where they jacked into those robotic bodies? I mean, if we could, let's put this. We'll put it to the phones. Anyone wants to call and talk about this? 1-866-378-7884. That's 1-866-37-TRUTH. But to your point, if we have the ability to put our brains into some sort of techno body, most people would do it, because they wouldn't. Because there's the other side, and that is they don't want to lose the last part of themselves, which they consider their soul. And so, yeah, they'd put themselves in a machine body in 2 seconds if they had the money, if they had the means to do it.
Well, I think the intermediary step is the avatar model.
Yeah,
because it seems like there's a lot of resistance by people saying, "Oh, I don't want to be a robot person." They think they're going to become an android or something. They're going to lose. Again, where does the soul go, and how does it transpose or move into a robotic body? But the avatar seems to be the mix of both tech and organic. Then it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Got an excellent point. We'll see, but I don't think All right, let me go with the silver lining version of the 23rd, and that is what if? Not even just the 23rd. What's moving forward? Because let's put it this way, folks: if the 23rd, if this week thing doesn't happen, then Flat Earth's going to get a whole lot bigger. Because then everyone that was focused on all this other stuff, the conspiracy stuff, there's only one thing to turn to, and that is Flat Earth. Because the doom and gloom evaporates, and then what do you got? In that case, does flat Earth become a tool for the authority at large? Maybe. Maybe not. I mean, you could turn it into everything could be turned into something awful. But let me ask you. I'll ask you.
Go ahead.
If the flat Earth had the power to unite humanity, which it does, unite humanity in a way that nothing else has united it, should we use it? We'll find out that after the break.
The Rundown live with Mike and Kristen, Monday through Thursday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent. With me is Jonathan from Jersey, and that was Joe Jackson, Stepping Out, one of my favorite early and one of the original MTV videos. I remember watching that a long time ago. Actually, believe it or not, we have callers because I blame myself. I'm not going to let Jonathan take the blame because he asked me, he goes, "Hey, are you on the phones?" I go, "Wait, I'm on the phones? I thought you were on the phones." And so we pulled up the control panel, and sure enough, there were actually callers in there. So right now we have Charles from Tennessee on the line with us. What's going on, Charles?
Hello. How are you all doing tonight? The show's doing real well.
Thanks.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What's on your mind this late evening?
Well, as far as all the predictions about what's going on,
yes,
there's nothing we can do except embrace it, whatever it is. I do believe if there were tragedies on the way, mm-hmm. I have a gut feeling that something has intervened and changed it. There was a massively weird sunset yesterday. I mean, the sky, the clouds were iridescent. It looked like a 3D special effect. Colors were not quite normal, everything, and it was one of those panoramic. It was on not just at the sun side, the opposite side.
Yeah. And
an effect I talked to you about in the past was real predominant too. When the sun got right to the horizon on the west, the east side lit up. The mountains on the east they just looked like flamethrowers were on them. And then this sense of peace came over me. I think that the true highest power of the universe might smack down some people, but for the most part, I think the meek will inherit the earth. I think that's so well ingrained in the Bible that I think they're going to quit screwing with us. I don't think they're going to have the power. And when you amass the power of the world together, which I think Prince Charles is supposed to be in America this week, too. It's everybody. I think, and if all this crap was going to happen to America, like an asteroid, and they knew it was going to happen, do you think they would be in America, in Washington, D.C., at sea level? No, they wouldn't.
Excellent point. You're right. You had some mixed messages there. Jonathan, you had something?
Would get out to Denver to higher ground and then underground.
yeah, there is that. But Charles may have a point here, and that is, you know what? I liked your first part, which said, you know what? Whatever comes, it's going to come. But you think we may have a reprieve on the way because maybe we've earned it, maybe we haven't. But we'll have to see. Interesting.
I like that.
Remember your Bible where Lot was told, "Go find one decent man, and I will save the city." I think there are decent people in America, and I think decency in the face of all the crap that's been thrown at us is really rearing its head. I think people are just have nailed down and they've started throwing all the shackles off. You know, and it's happened to me. It's happened to almost everybody I know. And it really started with the flat earth thing.
Yeah.
That just, you know, when we talked in the past, I said that was one of those things where peace just, I saw it. I immediately started realizing all these observations I'd had my whole life. I said, this can't be right. This, you know, I knew it. I didn't question it.
Yeah.
It was just one of those answers.
So for you, the flat Earth was kind of an answer, and you didn't brace against it much at all.
I didn't brace it one bit, and it was like it flipped. You know, in a Rube Goldberg machine, you have one lever, one mechanism that flips another mechanism. It started the mechanisms flipping, and then whip, 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 whip. This thing fell away, this thing fell away, this thing came to me, peace in this area came, or this anxiety, or this lack of functioning. Because when when all the basis of your reality is not, you're observing things, and your gut and your soul realizes, hey, this isn't the way we've been told, that right there sets up a big conflict.
Yeah.
An inner conflict. And as people, just the flat earthers dropping the conflict, I don't think we should be to the point we have to tell everybody.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, your real witness to anything is your example. If you got your act together, they say, why? You just say, I realize we're not spinning in space with everything going to knock us out of balance.
Got it.
I think it rationality is the foundation, and this is rational.
Fantastic. Hey, Charles, I hate to do this to you, but we have another caller that's waiting, but I thank you very much for reaching out. Please, we're going to do more call-in shows, and I'd love to talk to you again. Okay.
And I want y'all to do one thing: list your bumper music. It's really, really great if you could list it on your YouTube thing, because there's 2 or 3 songs, especially your lead-in song for the show.
Oh, okay.
That is fabulous.
Well,
and then that be good, and may much insight come your way.
Okay, thank you very much,
Jonathan. Your show's great. Jonathan's show's great too. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
See ya.
All right. That was Charles from Tennessee. Nice to talk to him. And yes, I will definitely try to list the bumper music if it isn't already listed because of matched content, which YouTube is so great at doing. So there you have it.
But he was really positive. I like that.
Yeah. There you go. You don't have to go, which is part of what our show is about. You don't have to doom and gloom this whole thing. You know, I know it's a little easier for me to say because I've got enough stuff prepped up that I can survive a year. But even without that, I would still be looking at this like, look, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And, you know, for me, it's kind of a long overdue thing anyway, because I believe in Act 3. For those people that don't know, it's like, look, I believe in any movie or book or screenplay, the big, you know, ending of the show, the big finale. What's it going to be? You know, spin the roulette wheel and tell me what it is, because I've been looking for it.
All participants are now unmuted.
Are you not working your phone machine right? Do we have another? Did that person that was calling in, did they stay on?
It said 2 other callers, but then they dropped off. So I don't know.
Okay. Let me throw the number out there. We have an open slot. If anyone wants to call in, 866-378-7884 or 866-37-TRUTH. That's the Truth Frequency Radio hotline. Talk straight to Mark and Jonathan on this late evening, which is now the 23rd of September. We're now in it. Does that mean anything's going to happen? Your opinions. You know, take your pick. What you going to go on this? You know, thinking, you know, run through the streets with your hands in the air, screaming, 50s movie style, Or are you gonna, stand outside and just look up and grimace, say, "Yeah, bring it. What you got?" That's what I'm gonna do. Seriously, something happens. Honestly, I wasn't kidding when people say, I get an email I think every week about Nibiru, for example, even though that ship came and went a long time ago. And I said, look, if that thing shows up, if it rears its ugly head in the sky, I'm seriously going to just walk outside and go, really? Really? That's what you got? Because it's a little late to the party.
When I hear Nibiru, I think of that movie Melancholia.
Yeah. Which we talked about on our movie End of the World movie show, part 1 or part 2. Melancholia with Kirsten Dunst, Kiefer Sutherland, Alexander Skarsgård, and some other people. And that movie ended. Was that Lars von Trier? Yeah, that was Lars von Trier. He that was about as he didn't pull any punches at the end of that thing.
I thought it was brilliant, though. It was just...
It was.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And that scene on the golf course at her own wedding made sense. You know what I'm talking about?
Where she had the affair with that guy?
Yeah, you can't really call it an affair. It was kind of like she knew what was coming, and it's like, what does it matter?
Yeah, what does it matter? Why am I getting married in the first place? Yeah, you could tell the first part of the movie didn't really make sense until you saw the second part. Most people say, the first part of the movie was boring, but it's like, no, psychologically, she kind of had a sixth sense, and she was already spinning around and in a really, really dark place way before the thing showed up. And I thought they handled the whole planet thing pretty well.
And it was funny because everybody around her was like, snap out of it. Like she was known for being that way, and they just, wrote her off to being bipolar.
Yeah.
Which, like, super aware. And I thought there was a kind of a reverse foreshadowing when her mother gave that toast at the wedding.
Yeah.
I thought maybe her mother was afflicted like that and that she had the same abilities.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Lars von Trier, he's one of those directors which actors just, if they know he's got a new project, they just contact him immediately.
Right.
Yeah, he's an interesting, and the cinematography was beautiful. That some of those super slow-mo scenes that they did in the beginning, that's how he started the movie, with those weird super slow-mo scenes. And it was like, wow, it's just gorgeous. Gorgeous to watch. So, yeah, neat. I hope it doesn't turn into Melancholia, though. I think that would be a kind of a anticlimactic thing.
Yeah, plus, I would be more like the Death Star, like.
Well, that would be really interesting because, if the moon all of a sudden killed its cloak, the moon crater cloak, and all of a sudden we realized it was a giant spaceship. Oh, that'd be classic.
But it would be instantaneous, and it would be less, scary and traumatizing. Because Melancholia, you knew it was coming as it got closer.
Yeah, and so many people would get the Star Wars reference. Is that would be the running joke? It's like, oh yeah, it's the Death Star. In fact, that's immediately what it would be called. There wouldn't be any other name for it. They wouldn't say spaceship. They wouldn't say UFO. They wouldn't say Nephilim. In fact, that's probably the reason it won't be the moon, because people would immediately make the Star Wars reference, and then George Lucas would get the trademark on the moon.
But you know what, though? In an ironic way, it would be the most fairest thing to do.
What?
Like have a Death Star blow up the Earth.
Why? Why is that fair?
Those that believe in God will get what they want, and they'll get to go to heaven. And it doesn't matter what religion they are; they don't have to fight over it, right? It just happens.
Yeah.
Don't believe, go back into nothingness, so it doesn't matter anyway, right? The rich can't escape into underground bunkers and get away, so everybody else is left behind. So.
Yeah, I suppose, but what's the point of it? It doesn't feel like it's like, what I mean. Are they even going to turn off the cloak before they fire? And plus, why haven't they fired by now? They could have done it at any time. What are they waiting for? But I could say that about a lot of things.
No, it's kind of like nobody knows what life is definitively. We've talked about this many times.
Yeah.
So what if we just wake up on the other side of it and we're like, holy crap? It's like when you slap somebody out of it, or wake somebody up when they're dead drunk, and it's like, what happened? Where was I? We're out of it. I
liked your, before I say what I liked about your thing. If anyone wants to talk to Jonathan and I about this, please call in, toll-free number. And we're going to open up the phones more and more as we do this anyway, because we've got the hang of the phones, one. we're not turning off with those weird messages anymore. The number to call, though, 866-378-7884 or 866-378-7, 37-TRUTH. And just assume that if we don't have a guest on, that we're just going to turn the phones on. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to prep for next week, for the next week's show, although next week's show, we have a guest, I think. But assume if we don't have a guest, and maybe I'll just put an email out or I'll put a quick YouTube saying we'll take calls tonight. People will stay up and give us a call and talk to us. Because why not?
If it's not an enclosed world, maybe you can make note of it on all the YouTube videos too, the new time, and then be sure to call in.
Yeah.
The number.
Yeah, good point. And by the way, for those of you who didn't catch the first part of this, we are actually now on Tuesdays. So the YouTube thing will probably go up on Wednesday instead of Sunday. So Wednesday, anyway, the point is it's on Tuesdays. So don't start running me emails and say, why isn't the show on Saturday anymore? What happened? It's like, well, because we got bribed by the Illuminati. It was a briefcase full of money, and we got moved from Saturday to Tuesday.
And by the way, reading the comments on the last, I know we talked about this earlier with the missile instructor confirming the flat Earth, Robert we had on.
Yeah.
There were some excellent comments in there, and I just want to thank everybody again who support the show.
Very positive. I liked there was a neat mix of positive comments, pro-military comments. People were saying, God bless our troops and stuff like that. And proud of him for coming out and saying it because we need more people like that. And we've got a little time left. Maybe we should sort of hint on what I'm gunning for on the next episodes. So we had Robert from the U.S. Navy, from the Iwo Jima. It's a WASP class ship. And then we had the Land Surveyor. That was today. So that's sea and land. The next one we're going to have, hopefully, cross our fingers, is under the water. Can you take a guess at what that might be?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not James Cameron as he keeps hovering around the Titanic. It's not that. Not with Bill Paxton right next to him, because I think that's all they do now. But yeah, that's what we're shooting for. So yeah, the next show, if everything goes well, will be a guest, and it's going to be another reveal thing where it's another person from a technical background is going to confirm what we already know, and that is, look, if you're out there with a professional background in something that kind of ties into this, and it won't, your job won't be at risk. I'm not asking people that build satellites that go nowhere to tell us what's going on there, or an astronomer. Astronomers seem to have bad luck with this if they come out and say stuff. But definitely come out. Why not? It's time, isn't it?
I can't wait for that next program because to have him and possibly Robert on too in the future. I mean, I think more come out and start, speaking about what they're seeing.
Yeah, and I should have seen that coming, which was, of course, I knew that we weren't going to get any astrophysicists to jump the line, or astronomers, or anything like that. But the military service, that made perfect sense. Someone that deals with long range weapon systems or medium range weapon systems, and people. So we're not going to get anyone from that deals with intercontinental ballistic missiles, any ICBMs or anything like that. Because that's, I think that ties into a little bit of national security, but it was great. He talked about stuff. No security laws were broken. Naval intelligence did not show up at my house. And you didn't get any calls or any weird phone things, as far as I know.
You know what's sad, though?
What?
How, because of society, the way the world is, because of egos and pride, even with scientists, when they're proven wrong, they don't want to reverse themselves, the papers they've written and admit, I made a mistake. I made a miscalculation.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't want to recant.
Yeah.
With, those that have economic investments and interests, they don't want to admit, okay, we made a mistake, whether it's GMOs, whether it's, anything.
Whether it's vaccines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. No, maybe I'm thinking because, we were talking about the 23rd. We talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
What if the financial system, because, that's on the radar, has to collapse the world over to then say, okay, being that we're starting from nothing, we might as well divulge everything. Right?
That's also a good one. And you're right. You and I have talked about that, where you bring down the financial. You make sure that you core out the American financial system from the inside for years. And then if America's the linchpin, which everybody else goes to, because the dollar is the default currency out there, it still is in a lot of places. You pull the pin on that, America collapses. Well, America's financial sector collapses. But yeah, that's a great start.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to follow through at that point. I mean, we've been kind of seeing the rumblings of it over the last few weeks, where you get these kind of dips and they kind of like what kind of seeing what's happened. Like today, what happened today? I heard it was down for a while, then I think it kind of recovered. But I don't know. I mean, it's a good start if you want to start something like that.
As far as the flat Earth goes and it being, revealed to the world, there's parts of the world that, again, they still believe in a flat Earth. I was just watching a documentary last night called Monk with the Camera.
Yeah.
And when this guy went to become a Tibetan monk, like, he had to convince them that we live on a globe.
Yeah.
He already believed we live on a flat Earth, so...
Yeah. I mean, the flat Earth is a great... Again, that's right. I'm sorry. I completely forgot that after the show... after the last break, we were going to segue back into your question, which was I forgot what the question was.
I want to get this person because I think they've been waiting. We got about 6 minutes.
Oh, we got somebody?
Yep.
Yeah, hit me.
You're on the air with Mark and Jonathan.
Hey,
hello?
Caller. You there?
Yeah, this is Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
We can. What's on your mind this late hour?
I was just checking you guys out, and it's got Chris and Cherie's picture up there, so I thought it was them at first, but I listened, and you didn't sound like a girl, so I've heard her many times. And I recognize your voices. I just can't remember which show you're from. And when you started talking about melancholy, I decided to stick with it. Check it out, and you encourage people to call, so here I am.
Right on. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Baltimore.
Right on.
Maryland.
Cool.
I understand there's another Baltimore somewhere in the Midwest, but
this is the Maryland one.
Baltimore City.
That's all right. Yeah, this show's actually Strange World, and I don't know if Chris and Cherie are actually listening right now, but their show is usually on Saturdays, unless they do more.
Okay, you're the cowboy, right?
No. We're the Tuesday's probably screwing you up. Normally, we're doing we do a Strange World show on Saturday nights, and we just.
I thought your logo, your picture was a guy in a cowboy hat.
Oh yeah. It's not a cowboy hat. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones hat, but yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Yep.
You're right. Yeah.
Yep. No, it's okay because some people have mentioned that it kind of looks like a cowboy hat.
We got a real shocker for you.
What?
Not only
That's a good picture.
Oh, thanks.
It was flat.
Oh yeah. By the way, Did you kind of know what the premise was behind the show, that the Earth isn't actually round, but it's actually flat?
Well, it's funny. I've heard. I think for the first time, I actually heard the subject taken seriously. I think it was your show, but it just so happened that probably about 9 months prior to hearing that show, I had made a comment to my mother about a point in law about a court case and proving a point of law, an element of a crime, being that it was difficult to prove that someone was actually in a state, being that the lines were not necessarily clear except on a map, and they were really fake lines. Mm-hmm. And it actually is an element of a crime. Somehow we got on the subject of things taken for granted. And I said, how do you even know the Earth is not flat, like they say it is? Because in all actuality, everything's relative. Mm-hmm. If you look at Einstein's theory, then the closer, or depending on your position to something else, it could actually be completely different depending on someone else's closeness to something else.
Sure.
And I said, for instance, the floor in the kitchen here is pretty clean, but it could be viewed as dirty, depending on if you got closer and really examined it with a microscope, or if you stepped far away and examined it with another type of viewing device. I said, by the same measure, I use every day in my retirement, I do a lot of construction, and I use levels and rulers, and everything relative to what I do is flat. I depend on that, and so does everybody else who does anything requiring a certain type of precision. And I said, maybe if you get out to a certain distance, yeah, absolutely, maybe it is round, but we're depending on two people that work for the government who's time and time again been proven to dispense a lot of lies. Again, in a court of law, one lie and a jury can disregard everything else. I don't know why we trust really anything that we hear from strangers from the government.
Hey,
we had this conversation.
Did you happen to hear the? It's interesting you mentioned working with construction, and we're running out of time here, so I have to make this quick. But did you happen to hear the first part of the show where the surveyor came on and said that look, everything he does is flat?
I didn't. No.
Oh.
I only listened for about maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. Hey, I hate to do this to you, but we got to wrap up the show here. But thank you much for reaching out. If you're up, again the next Tuesday, reach out to us again, okay?
And by the way, Mark, real quick, I think he dropped off. If you're standing on the side of the road, you're looking straight across the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody comes racing by you doing 50 miles an hour, it's going to seem like, whoa, they just raced by you.
Yeah.
But if that same driver is looking at you from down the block, and then they pass you, and they turn their head as they're passing you and keep on going, to them, you're relatively standing still.
True.
So it is all about perception. And wait, that's my show.
Oh, that's your show. That's a great segue. And with 30 seconds left, right? We have 30 seconds left. Any parting shots? So we talked to a surveyor. We took some calls. We talked about the 23rd.
And I got the soundboard working tonight.
And you got the soundboard working. You got the phones working. Telling you, may not be doomsday yet. We may have some gas left in this tank.
See, there's a reason Mark keeps me around after all. What do you know about that?
Anyway, guys, thanks very much for tuning in. Talk to you next time.
Thanks.
Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition met the greatest earthquake ever known. High on the rapids, struck their tiny raft, plunged them down 1,000 feet below to the land. Go! The land